Well, you'll never know the heartache of looking a grown man in the eye, and he asks, am I gonna make it? And you've gotta lie. Well, they call me Doc, but I ain't got no degree. When shit hits the fan, they're calling for me. From bluegrass Kentucky, with red blood on my hands, nobody calls me hero except for my friends. Yeah, they call me Doc.
Hey, hello, brothers and sisters. Thank you for tuning in. I'm your host, Rod Doc Walbeck. Joining me today, your co-host, United States Army combat medic, fellow blood brother, Joe Misfit Glenn. And welcome to the 5th episode of Sick Call with Doc. There for you then, and we're here for you now. Quick mission statement before we get started, gentlemen. We are here to simply provide a platform for veterans to speak their minds, tell their stories as they see fit, uncensored and unfiltered by the mainstream media. We want to bring awareness to the challenges and the struggles that are facing our veterans on a daily basis. We want to shed light on the organizations and government agencies that are either hindering or helping the healing process of our fellow veterans' mind, body, and spirit. And we're here to inspire and bring hope to all veterans and to do our part to eradicate veteran suicide. And lastly, to educate the world on how veterans on their own initiative are saving their own lives through the use of cannabis.
Hell yeah.
All right, gentlemen, I'd like to introduce Eric Moon, combat veteran, United States Army. Eric, what's going on, baby? Thanks for coming.
Welcome, brother.
Thanks for having me, Doc. Thanks for having me, Joe. Appreciate you guys and all of everything you're doing. So I just figured I'd get on here and kind of maybe help the cause a bit and talk a little bit about how cannabis has helped me in my life.
Oh, that's
I'm a U.S. Army vet, and I actually signed the line in 1987 during my senior year, and in 1988 went to basic and AIT after I graduated. I went out of AIT. I went to the 101st, was down there for about a year, come down on orders to go to a hardship tour to Korea. Went over to Korea for a year. While I was in Korea, the first Gulf War broke out. Got stuck over there a little bit longer than I should have. Normally a hardship tour, you go back to the duty station you came out of. But because of the Gulf War, the Army had froze everything. And so said, hey, if you want to get out of this country, the 10th Mountain needs people. You can go there or you can wait to go back to the 101st. I said, nope, want out of here. I'll go to the 10th Mountain. I was thinking, in my eyes, I'm from Pennsylvania, 5 hours from home versus 13 hours from home. So let's do it. So ended up at Drum, and that's where I seen most of my bad things, whatever you want to call them. I don't look at them as bad things anymore. I've come to learn that they were just building blocks in my life. So after I got the Drum, I think out of the almost 5 years I was at Drum, I spent maybe 10 months total at Fort Drum. Yeah. The rest of the time we were Panama, we were NTC, we did a tour over in the Sinai Desert in Egypt. We were down in Honduras in 1991. That's kind of the first issue I had. One of my best buddies, who was actually a friend of mine in high school, and we lost touch after high school. He was a year behind me, so I graduated, and he had his senior year yet, but we were like inseparable. So after after Fort Campbell and Korea, I showed up at Drum. I walk into my unit, and there he stood. So it was kind of a cool thing. But while we were down in Honduras, we were burning shit out of the cans, and he caught himself on fire. So it was pretty rough day. Come home from Honduras. He basically got out medically. He was pretty messed up. 3rd-degree burns on his arms and his neck and his upper chest. Somehow his face was saved, so he didn't have that much scarring on his face. But we still keep in touch. Good guy. After that, 93, Somalia, with all that fun stuff over there. And then came home from there. And then in 94, we were down in Haiti. So did some combat missions down in Haiti. And after I got home from Haiti, I decided that, I was just ready to get out, settle down, have a family. I didn't want to raise a family at that point in my life because I was gone too much. And I've been one that I want to spend time with my family. So I was ready. So I got out and moved back down to Pennsylvania with my beautiful bride of almost 30 years now.
Nice.
It's been a good ride. Not long after moving down here to Pennsylvania, I got in with the Pennsylvania Department of Corrections and did 20 plus years in prison. Then I retired in 2020 from there and just been living life now. So that's basically my life story. So,
well, it looks like Eric, it looks like the Army got every dime they invested in you out. What
I think they did.
Do, bro? What, I mean, they they ran you out, man. Like, fuck it, you're gonna do it all. I mean, holy shit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yep.
They got every dime they got out of you, man. Holy cow.
I'll tell you, man, because when he got to drum, well, it would have been Somalia-ish time, maybe just slightly before that is when we linked up, when we met each other. And, obviously through our deployments and stuff, you were in Triple Deuce. I was in 122. Or weren't you Triple Deuce, Eric? Yeah, you was Triple Deuce, right? And so although we were right next to each other and we always battled as, rival battalions, but Eric was one that hung out with me and my buddies. And well, I guess that's how it worked out. I guess I hung out with his buddies. I don't know how the fuck it worked out, but either way, that's how we linked up. And then our deployments, man, we were everywhere. Fort Drum was, when we got there, I got there as a cohort unit. So we had, I don't know how many people, Eric, what was it, like 100, 150 troops, all that trained together and went to Fort Drum together. And they had plans for us, man. And I know that's why those cohort units started getting put up in Fort Drum, was to start deploying. Because once we got there, man, is when it went ham. And I know Eric experienced all that. He went to Somalia, Haiti, all the different in-betweens, Yeah.
Yep.
It was a hell of a ride.
I thank you for your service, brother.
Hell yeah.
We thank you
a lot more than others, man. I appreciate
it was guys like,
I'd do it all over again.
in Somalia and in Haiti was where I got to work with the corpsmen the most. And that was as an infantryman, dude. The corpsmen were always there, man. And those were my boys. No, dude, they had knowledge, man. They had things I needed to know. Remember, I had mentioned in the first episode that I needed to be able to help my brothers. That would have been a better path for me instead of just being out there and getting hurt with them. The corpsmen had that knowledge that, started my path to, hey, I can help my brothers, Anyway, corpsmen, man, all day long. Dude, respect the shit out of y'all.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What's really cool, though, is, I think it's really cool, all the branches now go to one school and they all learn the same.
I think that's great, man.
Even dental technicians in the Navy they used to be just dental techs. It was a separate school for that. Mm-hmm. Now they're corpsmen with dental expertise.
Got you.
Yeah. So
that kind of it just sparked something in my head about Eric. Now, Eric, I know that you do other things for the communities and for veterans and such like that. And so maybe we can touch on that before too long. But I was kind of thinking, man, we should probably start talking about how cannabis is helping you. And I know since you've retired, you weren't able to really necessarily mess with all that stuff while you were in corrections and stuff, right? So how did that come about, brother?
So when I was in high school, I'm not going to lie, I was a huge pothead in high school. And of course, back then it was just to get high. There was no medicinal values in that stuff, just getting high and feeling good and having fun. So, but then through the military, 20 plus years of Department of Corrections, you can't do that stuff there either. We had random piss tests and things. You just can't get away with it. So I didn't do it. And so, funny story, how I got back into cannabis is I retired in 2020 from the prison in March, and that August was my wife's birthday. So my son, who had just turned 21 at the time, and he's all through high school, we knew he did pot. I smelled it every time he came home, but I never yelled at him because I don't think it's a bad thing. And how can I tell him he can't do it when he knew how much I did it in high school? I never hid anything from my kids. So for his mom's birthday, he was up visiting, and he said, "Mom, what do you want for your birthday?" And she looked at him kiddingly and said, "I want you to make me some pot brownies." And he's like, "Okay." And then the subject got changed real quick. So like 3 days later, he calls me, not his mother. He calls me, says, "Dad, was Mom serious about them brownies?" And I was like, "Hell yeah, let's do it." So he come up to the house, and I told him I wanted to come up here and make them so I could see how it was done. So he made them up here, and we cut brownies. Now I'm getting a little nervous because I haven't done this stuff in a long time. And I've heard people say that the stuff today is so much better than what we had, and I never did edibles. I always just smoked. So I was a little nervous. So I thought, I'm going to just let him eat one, and I'm going to sit back and watch. Well, I didn't realize at that point in my life that edibles take like an hour to kick in. So I watched, and about a half an hour later, I'm sitting there, and I'm like, well, he's not acting any different. This stuff must not really get you messed up. So I went in and ate a brownie. So, when we made these brownies, we cut them in normal brownie size, pretty big chunks. So what goes better with brownies than homemade ice cream? Well, I was making homemade ice cream in the garage. And about the time this stuff was kicking in, I went out to check the ice cream in the garage and was bent over the ice cream maker. And my wife comes out, and all I hear is, "Your son is so messed up right now." And I said, "Oh, yeah? Well, so am I." And she says, "Stand up. I want to see your eyes." So I stood up, and of course, my eyes were fire engine red. And we had our very good time. But I told my wife at that point, I said, "Look, go in the house and cut all them brownies into 4 little pieces each, because anybody else at the party that's going to eat these things does not need to be eating a huge brownie like that." So, one thing led to another. Everybody at the party was eating brownies, and we had a good time. So that was the joke. But when we woke up the next morning, my wife rolled over and looked at me and says, "You need to do that stuff all the time." I said, "Why would you say that?" She says, she says, in the 25 years we've been together, you have not slept like you did last night. She says, "You slept so good." And she says, "I know what it's from, so you need to start doing this stuff on a regular basis." And that's what started my medicinal, research, because I love to research stuff. So started it all.
Eric, let me ask you, when you out of naivety, because I don't know, when you got out of the service, did you have medical and or psychological issues you battled? And if you did, how did the VA not help you or help you? And
when I got out, I had a lot of issues. I had a lot of issues with, at that point, PTSD, but nobody really knew what it was back then.
Mm-hmm.
And what we knew, we weren't going to admit to people because then they'd think we're crazy, So the veterans don't like to admit that they have PTSD. But I also had some back problems, knee problems. I mean, typical infantry stuff because you carry everything on your own back. So I started going to the VA, and one thing led to another. The VA was like, "Here, take this med. Here, take this med. Here's some more candy for you. Just keep taking all this stuff." And at one point in my life, I was taking between psych meds, sleeping pills, and pain pills. I was up to 11 different meds, and just walking like a zombie. Yeah, I just felt like I was just kind of on record and just doing my thing all day and wasn't really enjoying life, wasn't doing anything, didn't want to leave the house unless I had to go to work, and then I wanted to come right home, and then I wanted to sleep all the time because that's all they made me do is sleep. Right. Started causing small issues with my relationship because I didn't want to do anything, and it takes it out of you. So even your libido goes away. You don't have it, so then you don't want her. So then naturally she starts thinking, well, there's something wrong with me, and as much as you tell her, no, it's not.
Never the case.
Yeah, exactly. But, so just one thing led to another. And after the whole joke incident, I started researching and finding out how much this stuff really does help people. So I said, you know what? I'm all in. So I got myself off all those medications. I don't take any of them anymore. And cannabis has really changed my life. I'm getting out in public. I'm doing things, her and I are having an awesome relationship. Everything's going great. I don't feel like a zombie anymore. I'm all clear now. Yeah, it's great.
That's awesome. I thought of something else too. I thought was interesting about you. Like after you got out and you were dealing with some physical and psychological stuff and you jump right back in the fire and corrections, how did your military time help you and also hinder you? The results of your service hinder you in Department of Corrections. I mean, that's from the fire to the kettle or whatever they call it. You know what I mean? Like
the pan, yeah.
Not exactly the same, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean, Doc. But yeah, so I think if you ask 100 different people that same question, you're going to get 90 different answers. But for me personally, I think the military really helped me because, so many people in corrections I've seen that all of a sudden something happens and you get under pressure and they cave, or they hesitate too much, whereas with the military experiences that I had, I already was used to dealing with things under pressure. So, a lot of times when something would happen, I was always that cool hand Luke guy that was ready to go at the drop of a dime and didn't have any problems, didn't have any questions, nothing.
Right.
So I would say, though, that all of my issues from the military some days would cause me problems at work. When you're inside a prison, all kinds of things happen, and if you're like not paying attention to something and all of a sudden a loud noise, I mean, we all know how that works.
Yeah.
It might have hindered a little bit, but for the most part, I think it helped more than it hindered.
Good. Okay, cool. That's really cool.
Oh, yeah.
I imagine you had zero tolerance for nonsense when you worked there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
That's
definitely.
absolute.
Yeah. There's no shenanigans, guys.
No. Nope.
Man, I enjoy the shit out of the subtle stories as to how things started off. I mean, lo and behold, he has a party. There's some brownies there. He takes them, has fun, but doesn't understand the medical benefits until the next day. And luckily, your wife saw that and was able to relay that to you. So you had this, see, this is why we do these shows, is for that little bit of a hint of a reminder, or of a, the idea of how we did things that might relate to this other person that's nervous about trying it, like you were right after, your corrections thing. Cause we were professional, man, and so understand that your health is more important than how you look out there in the public, man. In my opinion, nowadays, shoot. But good story on that, Eric, man. I appreciate you sharing that with us, man.
Yeah.
That was cool.
So through your research, what works for you? Is it sativa stuff, indica stuff, edibles, flower, carts, whatever? What's helping you with the things you've got going on?
So, it's funny because I use both, honestly. Most of my edibles I make out of a sativa for daytime use, because, I want to be energetic, and I want to get creative, and those also seem to help. Like if I take a real low dose when I need to go down to like Walmart or something, and deal with that, then, it's easier for me to deal if have something like that, but I don't want something that's going to kind of get me tired, Mm-hmm. So then I do make brownies, but when I make brownies, I make them with an indica, because that's for my nighttime. I call it my nighttime sniffling, sneezing, stuffy head fever, so I can rest medicine.
Yeah.
And I'll eat a brownie at night and then go out and smoke like a half a joint and come in the house, and I'll go to bed and I'm good. So yeah, my nighttime stuff is definitely indica, but I found that some of the sativa stuff really helps me better during the day.
Mm-hmm.
So although I don't know how much sativa-ish it is, because sometimes, even though it's, a sativa, sometimes I like to maybe let it go a little longer than it should with growing, so you get more of the ambers. So you're actually going to get a little bit more of the indica feel out of the sativa. Can manipulate plants like that, and it's kind of a cool thing.
Mm-hmm. And speaking, going back to your sleep, when you manipulate the trichomes as far as their how done they are, if they start to degrade, that helps you with more of this sleepy time vibe. And so like he's talking about, you can take it right when everything is perfect and ready to rock and roll, but it's not going to give you any of that downtime, which you may need to relax some muscles. That's what I do, right? So I manipulate my trichomes too, just like what he's talking about, to help with sleep or muscle spasms or pain, So yeah, and with sativas, I can't do those so much because I go whack-a-mole. So I have to let them go longer to calm me the hell down, but I still get some of the effect, I got to go light with,
Yeah.
That's the way I am too. I can't have a 100% sativa.
No,
it's harvested at the right time, because I'll be flying off the walls.
Yeah.
So
I like the Blue Dream. Blue Dream is a
nice
hybrid. It's got a little bit of indica, mostly sativa, at least for me. It keeps me focused. It allows me to multitask better. I'm uplifted, creative thinking, focused, and it works great for me. Sativas do. And then, of course, always at night, a little piece of that brownie, that nice sleeping pill.
Heck yeah.
Would definitely
So like with that one, that's being a hybrid that has multiple effects, whether it be sativa, indica, or both all together, right? That's why you find that good daytime vibe. You get all of the different effects that you desire, right? The sativa ones are going to help you with your creativity and all that stuff, right? Generally. But you're not going to get any of the relaxation. And so anyway, these hybrids, these polyhybrids, they have multiple parents. They're starting to affect multiple things in your body, at the same time, which an all over medicine, being as complex as cannabis is, it's a no brainer that's why you add 4 to 10 fucking parents together and get this polyhybrid that helps Eric sleep at night or helps Eric get up in the morning and do his work. That's the cool shit about cannabis, man. You can do so much.
So my all-time favorite strain so far has it's an Ethos Genetics. It's called Grandpa's Cookies. And it's supposed to be a 50-50 hybrid. So 50% of both. And to me, it is very well balanced. I do use it for daytime use, but when I smoke it at night, it also, you know, just gives me that nice calming, okay, I'm ready for bed effect. So, you know, I think some of these new hybrids are really where it's at anymore, to be honest. So, I mean, I love growing the old landrace stuff that's, you know, old school, but these new hybrids, I think, are really where it's at because you're getting a good mixture of both. So,
yeah. And so what I'm learning now with the landrace side, they have more cannabinoids, more terpenes, more fatty acids in there, right? That haven't been degraded through all of the crossbreeding. Okay. And so when you take one of these polyhybrids, perhaps we can breed a landrace or one of the pure ones to it to kind of bump up the cannabinoid count and the terpenes and the flavonoids and all this fatty acids that are helping our bodies. So that's what the plan is for, as far as for my kind of breeding, is I'm trying to increase the medicinal values of what we got going on right now. Pick and choose and make it all one beautiful medicine.
Yeah.
Work. It's a lot of work.
Eric, before we take a quick break, let me ask you one more thing.
Sure.
Name me one negative thing so far you have found with cannabis for you. Anything?
The only negative thing I can say about cannabis is why isn't it legal yet? You know, and I live in Pennsylvania where it's only legal medicinally, but then they throw in that high price to get a medical card, and then you have to go to the dispensary, and you know you're at their will, and most of that stuff has chemicals in it that's not good for your body either. You know, just all that kind of stuff. I mean, you know, I don't understand why. Well, I kind of do, but that's a whole nother episode on why it's not legal. But you know, I don't understand what the holdup is when they see how it's helping people.
Well, that's a whole nother discussion we can get into, huh? The big farm and politician stuff. Let's take a break real quick. Let's support some other veterans and their missions too, guys. Always support them.
Welcome to Veteran Voice Radio, where we honor the brave and celebrate their stories through music. Tune in to two incredible stations, Ranger Rockwave and Simplified Country. On Ranger Rockwave, experience the raw energy of alternative rock featuring talented musicians who are veterans and military family members. Their powerful stories and unforgettable tunes will inspire you and keep you rocking. Switch over to Simplified Country, where the heart of country music meets the spirit of service. Enjoy heartfelt ballads and toe-tapping tunes from veterans and their families sharing their journey through song. Join a community that honors those who serve. Veteran Voice Radio, music with a mission. Discover Ranger Rockwave and Simplified Country at veteranvoiceradio.com, or you can also download the app on Apple or Google and let the stories of our heroes resonate through your speakers.
And we're back with Eric Moon.
Hell yeah.
So I was trying to think of another great question for you to help our listeners understand better the good stuff that's come in your life through the use of cannabis. Let's get off track. You guys serve together. You spend a lot of time together. You've got to give us one story that you still laugh about today. That isn't too personal. You know what I mean? But this is always about just cannabis or about saving, the veteran suicide. We're going to show the human aspect of all of us veterans, so tell us something. Give us
I'll tell you what, Eric, you go ahead with it, man. I got hit in the head too many times to remember that good shit. Come on, man.
Got something?
Most of it was partying, man. That's the fun shit.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was the thing. I mean, I can't really like put my finger on just one particular, night or episode or incident. I mean, it was just, we just loved hanging out and just, I mean, the camaraderie, just in the military. I mean, everybody that's been in the military can tell you, it's just a camaraderie and just hanging out and partying, having a good time and just getting your mind off of shit. Back then, even after we got back from Somalia, wasn't none of us really suffering a whole lot because we were out every night partying it up and, getting our mind off of shit, but
we were excited to be home, having fun.
Yeah, exactly.
But, it went
until the next
like
episode.
There was like a 20-year gap between communication between me and Eric and me and another brother, Keith, right? Where we were real tight. And so, life happened, and so we all just did our family thing. Well, I ended up meeting back up with Keith, and then through Keith met back up with Eric. And, now, I mean, we rekindled a friendship, a brotherhood that was so powerful that we legitimate talk to each other every day. Every morning, there's a good morning, brother, coming from one of us. Yeah, well, at first, it's either he's getting me or I'm getting him, but every morning. And it's the same with Eric. And anyway, it's such a tight bit of brotherhood that is very, very, how do I say it? It's not very common anymore. Yeah. We exhibit a brotherhood, and we're trying to share this brotherhood with everybody. And, and that includes the sisters too, but we're trying to include all this with, it's something special, man. And I can't really put it in, I can't articulate the power of it, but it's beautiful, man.
Yeah. A couple of things. Also, when you're far from home, man, seeing a familiar face is it's like mail call. You know what I mean? Like, oh shit, brother, having a familiar face when you're so far away. Yeah. I remember, I was in boot camp. When I was in boot camp, I met a guy, Big Al Grote, and, we got through with boot. He went off to Engineman school, and I went off to the fleet. And I'm working in sick bay. We're out in the Persian Gulf. There's a ship out there called the U.S. LaSalle, and it was home ported right there in Bahrain, but it was an American ship, and so they would support ships coming in. Okay, I had to take these psych patients in the motor whaleboat over to that ship, climb aboard that ship, and bring these psych patients to their doctor to see. Rough seas come up, I get stuck on their ship. My ship won't come get me. So for a number of days, I'm on board this ship. Well, they assigned me to sick bay. I was a non-designated striker, so I didn't know what to do with me. I had hardly no skills at that time, So I think they made me do water testing for 4 days until they picked me back up. But the thing was, went to the bar from the ship to the only bar on base. I'm sitting there having a beer. I look over. There's Al from boot camp. He's stationed on that ship. How in the hell did that happen, right? Fast forward. I end up in Great Lakes to be an instructor at school. My wife stayed here, and my kids stayed here in Michigan. I went on to Great Lakes, and I checked into the corpsman barracks next to the hospital. I'm checking in. I look over. In the lounge watching football is Al Grote, an engineman in a corpsman barracks that I'm now in you know what I mean? Like, how in the hell could that happen? He was back in Michigan, was recruiting, got in a wreck, screwed up his knee, needed surgery. Closest hospital was that hospital. So they put him up in the corpsman barracks to recuperate. Nice. And that's how I ran into him again. Out of nowhere, man. And turns out he became an engineman instructor. I was a corpsman instructor. And we got Navy housing about the same time, and we were 3 doors down from each other for 3 years.
Wow, small world stuff.
Small Navy, you know what I mean?
Yeah, small Navy even.
Having that familiar face, and a brother, and the most weirdest way of finding each other.
Yeah, and we have a lot of cool stories like that, man. I'm sure Eric does too. But
oh hell yeah,
man, that was a real good thing, being able to link back up with those brothers, at the magnitude of these brothers that I have. I seriously, there is a hierarchy to just how much of a brother means to you, and it's just human nature. These guys I've been through every damn thing with. It's like my wife probably knows just as much as they do, because I mean, we went through everything, seriously. And it was a beautiful thing to be able to know that my brothers is still doing good, and we get to talk every day, and we get to meet each other's, significant others. And it was just a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Good for the heart.
Keeping our brothers and sisters here.
Yeah. And, I have someone to reach out to when I'm struggling, and again, this is what we're trying to do, is let everybody know to have that person, that brother, that sister to reach out to when you're struggling. I can call Eric for anything. I know that. I can call my brother Keith for anything, and they will be here, and they know they can do the same to me.
Yeah. And
Hell
found a lot of camaraderie on the Facebook group Veterans Canada Community.
Mm-hmm.
That Facebook group, I suggest anybody who's a veteran who wants to help other vets have camaraderie, share their cannabis stories, and bust each other's whats. You got to come join the Veterans Canada Community, where we mix veterans and cannabis together and share great stories and good brotherhood and sisterhood.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
You should try that.
And it's not just about cannabis. We have a bunch of other holistic, man. It's about holistic stuff, not dependent on these other chemicals to do what this holistic stuff can do. Eric, man, I was just thinking about your growing and stuff like that. What has that done for you, brother? What is that growing cannabis? I know that it did something for you. Talk to me a little bit about that, brother.
Oh, it's therapy. It's therapy for me to just go down. And first of all, I always play music down here. I've read a lot of things that the beat of the music is good for plants. They like that. So, I go down there, I'm listening to music, which is therapeutic in itself. And then you turn around and you're just looking. Mm-hmm. I mean, just to even sit there in your grow and just look and say, wow, I did this. I started this from seed, and look at this plant, and it's just getting your hands in the dirt and feeling like you're part of the earth. You're just in there just chilling, not a care in the world. You're not thinking of anything else but those plants and, what your next steps are, what am I doing next with this stuff? Where am I going? Yeah, it's just so therapeutic.
It's
one thing. Yes, exactly. One thing about growing, and there's other things that can do this, but it keeps you present. All right. A lot of the times we suffer from thinking about what's going to happen or what has happened. That's where we're stuck. If you can be present for a certain amount of time, you will calm yourself. And so when you're out, you're listening to music, that changes, what you were thinking about. But when you're looking at a plant and you're touching it and you're focusing on it, I don't know whether you're looking at just how long the branch is. I don't care what you're doing. As long as you are present, you will start to heal. And then to get that for hours of being present and healing, man, it's like a snowball effect. Before you know it, you have to get out there and be in the soil and touching plants. And I don't know, man, it's just a therapy. Just like he said, it's so much therapy. You can't buy this kind of therapy. You can't buy it.
I didn't think of that it helps you be present.
Present. Does. That is the word. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because you're thinking about
and sometimes I find and sometimes I find too that even on those days when I think to myself, man, I'm just not feeling it today, and maybe I'll just lay here in bed all day, and then all of a sudden you start thinking and you're like, wait a minute, I got plants that are depending on me. I got plants that I need to go do something with, mm-hmm. I gotta get up and I gotta get moving because I have things that depend on me. My wife depends on me. My plants depend on me. My pets depend on me, everything, it all goes back to the purpose, but it just makes you get out of bed during the day and say, hey, I got to go do something. So,
yeah, I think it's amazing that the cannabis, Eric, has helped your wife like you.
Oh, I know. Yeah, exactly. It has.
If for any other reason, I would be doing piles of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
Makes Mama happy, man. That is.
Oh, yeah.
I never thought of that, but it does.
Well, I mean,
our mood and
but that's the sad thing though, is, you know, when veterans are going through this stuff, you know, you don't think about what the spouses are going through. But, you know, she would be the one laying there beside me at night when I'm having nightmares, when I'm twitching, when I'm, you know, just doing weird shit in my sleep, you know, or, you know, like one night we had a bad thunderstorm come through and I woke up, I was underneath the bed, you know, no kidding. I was underneath the bed, you know, and my wife's like leaning over the bed, peeking down, like, are you okay? What's going on? You know, trying to ask me questions. But I mean, pretty early on in our relationship, she learned, you know, don't just come up and shake me to try and wake me up, you know, because I come up swinging, and, you know, and that's a sad thing. I thank the good Lord every day that I never made contact with her, because that might have been a game changer for me right there. That I don't know if I could live with myself if I hit a woman, even though it wouldn't have been on purpose. But yeah, no, I couldn't do that. But, you know, it's just, they live it sometimes, I think, just as bad as we do. But, you know, there's not really anything that they can do about it. So that's kind of, it makes them feel.
Not to mention how long you've been with her, right? And so the longer we're with an individual, we start to feel each other. We start to understand, you know, the vibration of each other. She feels you, you feel her, and that is a fact. And like, just like with my wife, I feel her. She's, you know, I've been married to her for 32 damn years, you know, similar like what you got, right? We feel each other. And so, yeah, you're right, man. Our spouses go through so much shit, you know, but cannabis helps, right? Cannabis helps. So anyway.
And that's why when she said, hey, you're going to do this because you haven't slept that good in years, you know, in my brain, I'm thinking, well, that's great, because I really do need some sleep eventually. Yeah. But second of all, in my brain, because to me, she always comes first. In my brain, I'm thinking, hey, this is going to make life better for her too. You know, and if it's better for me, then it's going to make it better for her. So,
well, so definitely. You think about it, you got the double combo package, Eric. You did some edibles and you slept like a baby, and your wife saw that and supported you. And so that's how cannabis has helped you that way. And then can't you make the connection that by growing and helping you be more in the present, that growing cannabis and taking care of them girls may have helped in your marriage relationship too, because you're more in the present with your wife and a better listener or whatever it may have been, you know?
Most definitely. Most definitely.
That's awesome. That's freaking awesome.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and not to mention, you know, I don't know why this just popped into my head, but I was thinking about the particular things that cannabis helped me with, and I never mentioned hypervigilance in public. It slows now I'm still very vigilant, but it takes away the hyper portion for me, right? And so I'm risk assessing. I'm looking at people, figuring out how I could take them out if I need to. I know Eric goes through this shit. When we're out there, these are all things that run through our head. Like, who's the threat? Who's the threat? And then what can I do to alleviate that threat if something ever came up? That shit starts to go away. If I, you know, just take a few pops just to take the edge off, that kind of stuff calms me down. Now, do I still have to sit with my back to the wall looking at the door? Yes.
Yes.
That's for my wife's protection. That's for our protection. That's just the way that works. But it slowed me down and calmed me down to know that I am present in America, in my hometown. Although we have bullshit that happens just like you guys do, it's not common like it is in war, where our heads are usually stuck. That's what I'm trying to get out of people. I don't want them to be stuck in war no more. You're home, you're safe, you know, come on over here and smoke some weed with me, you know? Anyway, yeah, man, Eric, you just brought up a whole bunch of emotions in my head, man, about that shit.
Yeah. The other thing I find,
we've come a long way, brother.
Yeah.
I like to tell people too that, I mean, this stuff has helped so immensely that I haven't even taken Advil, Tylenol. I have taken absolutely nothing for pain. I have 2 herniated discs and 2 bulging discs in my back. I've taken absolutely nothing for pain for at least 8 to 10 months now. Nothing. So, I mean, you can't tell me this stuff isn't good.
And you're off the
information
down.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
And this stuff is, it's an anti-inflammatory. So when you keep the inflammation down, naturally, it's going to keep the pain to a dull roar. So,
wow. I've seen.
I call it my WD-40. That's what I call it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
We see the same recurrence, though, don't we, Joe? And especially, here's the one thing that I've found so far with all of our guests. They weren't stoners the first day they got out of the military. Most military people, and you fall right in, Eric. You got high in high school. That doesn't count, right? That's all sealed records. That's all sealed records,
That's sealed.
But once you get out, how long these veterans who never thought of cannabis or ever used cannabis, the length of time they go before they realize or they see or they get the opportunity. They're not into it to be stoners, and it's obvious. That's obvious. It's about the medicine for so many veterans and not just some, gateway drug to your refrigerator,
Alternative medicine, people, it was the original. It was the original medicine. The alternative are these pharmaceuticals, man, that they got it twisted up and was making it the way, but it's not the way, folks. Maybe in some situation,
doctors,
if you have a heart problem. Anyway, I think that they should do that. I think that the government should allow doctors to prescribe cannabis. I think they should have that on the level. And I think medicinal cannabis should be a little bit cleaner, better, and more for medicinal purposes only. And then I think you can have your recreational for all the folks that just want to play with it. But medicinal needs to be spot on.
Yeah. So Eric, now you've retired twice, and you're growing cannabis. What do you like to do? What are some of your hobbies? What's your fun?
We run a nonprofit here in PA called Heroes and Horses. We do equine therapy for veterans with horses. It's a really cool program. They say that a horse can hear your heartbeat from 4 or 5 feet away. And horses are naturally fight or flight animals. So as you're approaching a horse, when you're 4 feet from a horse, they can hear your heartbeat. If your heartbeat is elevated, then their natural instinct is going to think something's going on. I need to get out of here, and they're going to run away. They're not going to sit there and wait for you to come up and pet them because they feel that something's wrong with you. So when we first get veterans to come out to the program, it's really neat thing to watch is, we'll be approaching the horse and all of a sudden the horse either just starts acting funny or goes to the back of the stall or something like that and doesn't really want to be near the veteran, so then I have to explain to the veteran that, you have to kind of take some deep breaths, calm yourself down. Don't be afraid, and I mean, some of it has to do with if they've never been around a horse before, they're kind of scary. They're big, so some of it's that, and we just have to calm them down a little bit, but then it's neat to watch the transformation after their first couple times at the barn, how they become more relaxed around the horses. And they're also there with fellow veterans getting the camaraderie that they need. So that calms them. All of a sudden you see them making connections with the horse. And that's just a really cool thing.
That's awesome. What state are you in?
Pennsylvania.
And that's where you're doing this? So for our listeners, any veterans in Pennsylvania, how do they get a hold of you, Eric?
They can look me up on Facebook and PM me if they'd like, and I'd be more than happy to talk to them. We have a web page or a page on Facebook called Heroes and Horses. You can look up. It has all kinds of cool pictures of our program, and I do a lot of community events. I go out in the community and do a lot of speaking about the program and, just kind of trying to get more people involved. So,
yeah, and I'll pull together that information also and get it to Brian so that maybe on a subsequent episode we'll put it up for you, brother, and get the word out.
hey, thanks, appreciate it.
Absolutely. The
Heck
more people,
but hey, anybody that lives in kind of northern central Pennsylvania here, they want to get a hold of me, feel free, PM me, and I'd be more than happy to get in touch and give you a tour or whatever.
Yeah, and maybe an edible.
Well,
Hey, perhaps.
too, yeah. Hey, I'm down for that too. Yeah, definitely. We'll get together, go up my deck and smoke a joint, talk about horses. I don't care.
Yeah.
Right. Hell yeah.
So Eric, if you could come up with something for just to tell our listeners, what piece of advice would you give them for a non-using cannabis person? What would you tell them to do?
I would tell them, don't believe all the hype and the bull crap that everybody tries to talk about cannabis. It's very healing and it's natural. Just don't believe it's not a gateway drug. I have never talked to somebody that likes to smoke weed that all of a sudden one day says, "Oh, I think I'm going to just shoot some heroin in my arm. This weed just isn't doing it for me anymore." You just don't hear that kind of stuff. It's not the gateway drug, and don't listen to all the, people just want to get high, get stoned all the time. No, a lot of us don't want to just get high and be stoned all the time. We just want a little bit to take the edge off, of the pain and off of the anxiety. And, we just don't listen to all the mainstream crap.
Yeah. Joe said something. Yeah. Joe said something in another episode that kind of hit me. He said, I don't show off my weed and my medicine and stuff. It's a medicine to me and it's personal.
It is. It's personal.
And I went,
yes,
damn, that is so poignant. It's like, it's not like the high school kids at the drive-in sneaking a doob and be high,
Yeah. Right.
It's a much more interesting thing and a very personal thing.
I do show some of my stuff to certain people, but I've also discovered that when I show people some things like that and they realize that, I kind of know what I'm talking about when it comes to growing, then all of a sudden it intrigues them. And then they want to decide they want to start growing. So then they start contacting me and asking questions, and then I give them answers or tell them what to read, where to look, what to do, and all that kind of stuff. And, to me, you and I have talked about this before, that to me, teaching people is also very therapeutic, because it makes me get back to what I want to talk about. And, it makes me get back to, do they ask a question that I don't know the answer to? That happens a lot. And then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, hey, step back here. I got to go do a little research.
Yeah.
Too.
They keep you on your toes. So, that's what I appreciate about it, But Rod, what I was talking about was as that relates to it being personal, and Eric, just so you know, it was about the usage. I wouldn't come on a show like this and just be smoking down. That's not me. When I medicate, it's legitimate medication, and that for me, that's personal. And so, although me and you can have a personal video call or whatever, and sure, we could share a joint, and shoot the shit. But when it comes down to this kind of stuff, no, that's more of a personal vibe for me.
Yeah,
that's what I was meaning by that.
Yeah, it's pretty badass.
Okay, yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yep. Mm-hmm. I just never had understood it like that. So it opened my mind. Every episode, there's something that just I walk away and go, wow, I never even thought of it like that before. Yeah. So I hope our listeners are also getting that. I hope they're being inspired. I hope that they're saying to themselves, you know what? There's hope for me too. All these people have been helping themselves. Maybe we keep them with us. And that's what this is all about. Yeah. Anybody else? Anything else to say, guys? Anything?
As far as cannabis goes, for the listeners out there, all of our stories, you know, these are our stories, and we want to hear yours. All right. And so, and how you deal with cannabis. For me, like we just explained, you know, ingesting cannabis is a personal thing for me. And so I usually do it by myself, or, you know, in confined spaces, just for myself. Other people, they want to go out and they want to party it up. That could be your style too. It doesn't necessarily matter, as long as you give cannabis a shot and stop believing all the rhetoric about how bad it is for you. That's all I would say. And when you guys are doing that, we're here to help you along with it. So that's what I had to say, Doc.
All right. Well, Eric, thanks for coming on today, man. I appreciate the courage and the initiative to do so to help your fellow veterans, man.
And brother, thank you for your service, man. Welcome home.
Hey, thank you both. Thank you both for having me. Thank you both for your service. And I love what you guys are doing for the community. So let's all spread the word together.
I'm glad you're a part of it. Joe, always thank you to you, my brother. Brian,
it's been a pleasure, brother.
Brian in the background, brother. Couldn't do it without you. And,
appreciate you, Brian.
I appreciate you guys very much. Let's save some lives, some veteran lives, guys.
Hell yeah, brother.
God bless. Everybody, listeners, have a great day. Thanks for stopping in and seeing us. Take care. Appreciate it.
Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe.